Okay, so let's dive into this problem that affects, like, so many people, plantar fasciitis. You know that pain, that heel pain, especially when you first, like, get up in the morning.
Ah, yeah.
It's not just athletes either. It's something like 10% of all adults will deal with this at some point.
It's true. And it can, like, really affect your daily life. Walking is tough, standing is tough, even getting out of bed can be a real challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just a little annoyance. So today we're going to do a deep dive on a potential, I guess you could say, game changer, SoftWave therapy.
Okay.
It's this non-invasive way to treat plantar fasciitis, and it's been getting a lot of attention lately. So we're going to unpack the science behind it. We'll look at the research, and we'll even hear from this, like, leading orthopedic surgeon who's actually using this with his patients.
You know, it's interesting because SoftWave uses shock waves, and this technology has actually been around for a while. I mean, it goes back to the 1970s when they were breaking up kidney stones, but now they're finding it can really help the body heal itself naturally.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So to understand how this works, we have to start with the plantar fascia. What is that exactly, and why does it cause so many problems?
So think of it like this. The plantar fascia is this really strong, fibrous band of tissue, and it runs along the bottom of your foot. It's super important because it supports your arch, and it, like, absorbs the impact of every single step you take.
Oh, wow. Go.
But all that stress, all that repetitive strain, it can cause these, like, micro tears and inflammation and, well, problems.
It's kind of like a rubber band. If you keep stretching it and stretching it, it'll get all frayed. Right?
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it.
Right.
And, you know, they call it plantar fasciitis, but sometimes it's not just inflammation. Sometimes the tissue itself is actually degenerating. That might be why some people with plantar fasciitis, they have these MRI scans that look totally normal.
Huh. That's fascinating. Okay, so how does SoftWave therapy actually help? How can these shock waves actually heal this?
So this is where things get really, really cool. SoftWave uses these things called unfocused electrohydraulic waves. Imagine a gentle wave, but powerful, and it spreads out over a wider area.
So it's different from the shock waves they use for kidney stones.
Exactly. Those are, like, highly focused on one tiny point. SoftWave is different. It covers a much larger area, which is perfect for something like the plantar fascia.
Gotcha. So what happens when these shock waves hit the plantar fascia?
They trigger something called mechanotransduction. Basically, it's how cells respond to any kind of physical, like, mechanical stimulation. So in simple terms, these waves, they make these tiny pressure changes, and that causes, like, vibrations in the cells. It's like they're getting a wake-up call and makes them start repairing themselves.
Wow. It's amazing how our bodies, like, recognize these shock waves and know how to respond. So can you talk a little more about what's actually happening with those cells?
Sure. So the vibrations start this whole chain reaction of signals within the cell. It leads to some really important responses, like the activation of growth factors. Those are essential for repairing tissue.
All right.
And we also see an increase in nitric oxide, which helps get more blood flow to the area. So you've got more oxygen and nutrients going to the damaged tissue.
So it's not just about making things heal faster. It's like the body is actually rebuilding itself from scratch.
And here's the really incredible part. SoftWave actually triggers the release of stem cells.
Stem cells, like the ones that can become any type of cell.
Exactly. That's where SoftWave's real power comes in. These stem cells, they can turn into whatever kind of cell is needed to repair the plantar fascia.
Wow, so it's like superpowered healing. Are there, like, studies that prove this actually works?
Absolutely. There's so much research showing how effective shockwave therapy is, especially the unfocused kind, like SoftWave when it comes to plantar fasciitis. For example, in 2021, a study by Dr. Fansa and his team found that 81.5% of patients who got SoftWave for plantar fasciitis were happy with the results. They had way less pain, and they could walk and do their normal stuff so much easier.
81.5%. Wow, that's a pretty big number. But is that just one study?
Not at all. Other researchers, like Gollwitzer, Purcell, and Lai, they've all published studies showing big improvements in pain and function after ESWT.
Okay, so it sounds like the evidence is really piling up. What about doctors? Are they using this technology?
They are. And get this, Dr. Martin O'Malley, he's this orthopedic surgeon at the Hospital for Special Surgery. You know, the one that treats all the pro athletes, the NBA, NFL, MLB.
Yeah.
He actually uses SoftWave therapy with his athletes, both before and after surgery.
Wow, so if a doctor who treats the best athletes in the world is using it, that must mean something, right?
It definitely does. And he's been quoted as saying it's really effective and that he uses it for a whole bunch of things, from plantar fasciitis and tendinitis to even stress fractures.
So we're talking about a non-invasive treatment, backed by research, used by top doctors, and with a high success rate.
That's exactly right. And let's not forget how convenient it is. Treatments are usually only 5 to 10 minutes long, which is great for people who are busy.
Right. Okay, so SoftWave seems like a good option for plantar fasciitis. But what makes it different from the other shockwave therapies out there?
Well, it all comes down to the technology. SoftWave has this patented reflector design, and it creates this really unique energy distribution. So it can effectively treat both the surface tissues and the deeper tissues.
This is like a multi-tool for healing.
Yeah. And remember that broad coverage we talked about. SoftWave's therapeutic zone is 7 centimeters wide, and it can reach up to 12 centimeters deep, so it can treat the whole plantar fascia.
Wow, that's impressive. But what about the actual experience? Is it comfortable? Is there any downtime afterwards?
One of the best things about SoftWave is that it's totally non-invasive. No needles, no drugs, no surgery. Most people say it feels like a gentle tapping or pulsing, and there's usually no downtime, so you can go about your day right after the treatment.
Okay, let's do a quick recap for everyone listening. Plantar fasciitis is a pretty common problem, and it can really affect your life. But it sounds like SoftWave therapy is a really promising solution. It's backed by science, it works, it's convenient, and it's comfortable. What's not to like?
You said it. And what's really exciting is that they're finding that SoftWave can treat a bunch of other conditions too, like back pain, knee pain, even wound healing.
Really, there's even more. Wow, now I'm really curious. We definitely need to talk about those other uses in a future deep dive. But let's stick with plantar fasciitis for now.
Sure.
So we've covered a lot, but there's always more to learn. For example, did you know that the traditional treatments for plantar fasciitis don't always work that well?
That's true. Like corticosteroid injections. They often only help for a little while, and they don't always get to the root of the problem. And they can have side effects.
Yeah, you're right. And sometimes those injections actually make the plantar fascia weaker over time. Plus, some people just don't like needles, especially if there's a non-invasive option.
Exactly. That's where SoftWave is so great. It's a gentler, smarter approach to healing. It's not about just covering up the pain. It's about fixing the problem by helping the body heal itself.
I like that. And when you think about that 81.5% patient satisfaction rate from Dr. Fance's study, those are real people feeling real relief without needing injections or surgery.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. Now, earlier you mentioned that SoftWave can be used for other things besides plantar fasciitis. Like, what else are they using it for?
Oh, wow. There's a long list. We've already talked about back pain, knee pain, and wound healing, but it goes way beyond that. They're using SoftWave for things like tennis elbow, Achilles tendinopathy, shin splints, even rotator cuff injuries.
So basically any kind of musculoskeletal problem.
Pretty much. And it all comes down to its ability to stimulate healing at the cellular level. By boosting blood flow, reducing inflammation, and helping the body produce collagen, SoftWave can help the body repair itself faster no matter what kind of injury you have.
So it's like giving your body the tools it needs to heal better and faster.
Exactly. And because it's non-invasive, it's safe and effective for a wide range of people.
So if someone's listening to this and they're dealing with chronic pain or an injury that just won't heal, would you recommend they look into SoftWave?
Absolutely. I would tell them don't give up. There are always new advancements in medicine, and SoftWave therapy is definitely one worth checking out. Talk to your doctor, do some research, and see if it might be a good fit.
That's great advice. It's so important to be proactive about your health and learn about all the options available.
Definitely.
And speaking of learning, I'm ready to get a little more in-depth with the science behind SoftWave. Can we get a little nerdy here?
Oh, I love getting nerdy. Let's do it.
Great. So let's break down exactly how these shock waves actually work at the cellular level. Remember that term mechanotransduction that we mentioned earlier?
Yes, that's really the key to understanding how SoftWave works. It's how cells react to any kind of physical stimulation.
Okay, so walk us through it. What are the steps?
So picture these shock waves moving through the tissue. They cause these teeny tiny changes in pressure, which makes the cells vibrate.
So it's kind of like they're giving the cells a little nudge.
Exactly. And those vibrations start this whole chain reaction of biochemical signals inside the cell. It's like a domino effect.
So what are those signals actually doing?
Well, some of the most important ones are the activation of growth factors. Those are crucial for tissue repair. They're like the construction workers getting everything back in order.
Oh, that makes sense.
And at the same time, SoftWave is stimulating the production of nitric oxide, which is a molecule that helps widen the blood vessels.
So that means more blood flow to the injured area, right? Which means more oxygen and nutrients to help it heal.
Exactly. But maybe the most incredible part of all is that SoftWave triggers the release of stem cells.
Wait, stem cells?
Yeah.
As in the ones that can turn into any kind of cell in the body.
The very same. And that's what makes SoftWave so powerful when it comes to regeneration. These stem cells, they can change into any cell that's needed to repair the tissue, whether it's muscle, tendon, ligament, or even bone.
So it's not just about speeding up healing. It's about getting the body to rebuild itself from the ground up using its own stem cells.
That's right. It's almost like tapping into the body's fountain of youth.
Wow, this is all so fascinating. It really shows how much we're still learning about how the body heals itself.
It really does. And the fact that we can harness this natural process with something like SoftWave is truly remarkable.
Absolutely. So it's not just about reducing pain and inflammation. It's about triggering a much deeper, more regenerative process that can actually repair the damaged tissue.
Exactly. That's what makes SoftWave so unique. It's not just a quick fix. It's a way to help the body heal itself in a lasting way.
It sounds like this is a real game changer for pain management and regenerative medicine, and we've only just scratched the surface.
I agree. There is so much more to discover about this technology, and I think we're going to see some really amazing things happen with it in the future.
I can't wait to see what the future holds for SoftWave. But for now, we need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this episode with some final thoughts and takeaways for our listeners. Stay tuned.
Before the break, we were talking about how SoftWave is kind of like giving your body a toolbox. It gives it what it needs to heal itself, but better and faster.
It's amazing, right, how we can work with our bodies to help them regenerate.
It is. And what's really cool is that SoftWave can be used for so much more than just plantar fasciitis.
Yeah. We touched on this earlier, but SoftWave can be used to treat all kinds of things like back pain, knee pain, and even wound healing. Can we talk more about that?
Absolutely. It's pretty remarkable how versatile this technology is. They're using it for all kinds of musculoskeletal conditions, everything from tennis elbow and Achilles tendinopathy to shin splints and rotator cuff injuries.
Wow, that's a lot. So it seems like the common thread is that these are conditions that cause pain, inflammation, and tissue damage.
You got it. And that's where SoftWave's unique mechanism of action really comes in. Remember how we talked about mechanotransduction and how it triggers that whole cascade of healing responses? Well, that same process works on different types of tissue throughout the body.
So whether we're talking about a tendon, ligament, muscle, even bone, SoftWave can help kickstart the repair process.
Exactly. By increasing blood flow, reducing inflammation, and stimulating collagen production, SoftWave basically sets the stage for healing to happen no matter what kind of tissue is involved.
It's like SoftWave speaks a language that the body understands, a language of healing and regeneration.
I love that analogy. And because it's non-invasive and it doesn't involve any drugs, it's a really safe and effective option for a lot of different people.
That makes sense. So if someone is listening to this right now and they're struggling with chronic pain or they have an injury that just won't heal, would you tell them to look into SoftWave as a treatment option?
Absolutely. I would say don't give up hope. There are always new advancements in medicine, and SoftWave is definitely worth exploring. Talk to your doctor, do your research, and see if it might be right for you.
That's a great message. It's easy to lose hope when you're in pain, but knowing that there are therapies like SoftWave out there can be really encouraging.
I think so too. And sometimes just understanding the science behind a treatment can help people feel more empowered to make decisions about their own health.
I totally agree. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our well-being.
You said it. And speaking of knowledge, I'm ready to get a little more technical if you are. Are you up for a deeper dive into the cellular mechanisms behind SoftWave?
Oh, I'm always up for a good science deep dive. Let's do it.
Perfect. So we already talked about mechanotransduction, but let's take a closer look at those cellular responses. Picture those shock waves traveling through the tissue. They cause these tiny pressure changes, which make the cells vibrate.
It's like they're getting a little wake-up call, right? Time to get to work.
That's a great way to think about it. And those vibrations, they set off a whole chain of biochemical signals inside the cell, like a domino effect.
Okay, so what are those signals actually doing? What's happening step by step?
Well, one of the first things that happens is the activation of growth factors. Those are like the messengers that tell the body to start repairing tissue. Think of them as the construction foreman, making sure everything gets rebuilt properly.
So they're kind of like the bosses of the repair crew.
Exactly. And at the same time, SoftWave helps the body produce more nitric oxide. That's a molecule that helps to widen the blood vessels.
So it's increasing blood flow to the injured area, which means more oxygen and nutrients are getting there to help with healing.
Right. But maybe the most amazing thing about SoftWave is that it triggers the release of stem cells.
Wait, are you talking about those stem cells, the ones that can turn into any type of cell?
The very same.
Yeah.
That's where SoftWave's regenerative powers really come into play. These stem cells can transform into whatever cells are needed to repair the tissue, whether it's muscle, tendon, ligament, or even bone.
So it's not just about patching things up, it's about helping the body to rebuild itself from scratch using its own stem cells.
Exactly. It's like giving the body a boost from its own internal fountain of youth.
Wow, that is incredible. It really changes how we think about healing, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not just about masking the pain or reducing inflammation. It's about stimulating a much deeper healing process that can actually restore the damaged tissue. That's the beauty of SoftWave. It's a holistic approach. It helps the body heal itself in a really powerful way.
This is truly groundbreaking stuff. We're talking about a whole new paradigm for pain management and regenerative medicine. And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know. The future applications for this technology are so exciting, it's hard to even imagine what's possible.
I can't wait to see what the future holds for SoftWave. But for now, I think we need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this episode with some final thoughts and takeaways for our listeners. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've been having this incredible conversation about SoftWave therapy.
It's been a fascinating journey for sure. We've talked about the science, the research. We even heard from a top doctor who uses it with pro athletes.
And it's just amazing, right, how SoftWave actually works with the body to promote healing at the cellular level.
It really is, and it's not just for athletes or for one specific condition. We've seen how SoftWave can help anyone dealing with chronic pain or injuries, from plantar fasciitis to back pain, knee pain, even wound healing.
It's like a ray of hope for people who have been struggling to find relief.
Exactly. And the most exciting part is we're just beginning to understand the full potential of this technology.
You mentioned earlier that the future applications of SoftWave are incredibly exciting. Can you tell us more about that? What are some of the areas where you see the biggest possibilities?
Well, one area that really gets me thinking is using SoftWave for neurological conditions. There's some early research suggesting that shockwaves could be used to treat things like stroke, Parkinson's disease, even Alzheimer's disease.
Wow, that would be revolutionary.
Yeah.
Are we talking about potentially changing how we treat some of the most difficult neurological disorders?
It's definitely possible. It's still early, but the research is looking really promising. The idea is that these shockwaves can actually stimulate neurogenesis, which is the creation of new brain cells.
So it's not just about healing damaged tissue, it's about potentially rewiring the brain itself. That's incredible.
So it is. And then there's the idea of using SoftWave alongside other therapies. Imagine combining it with stem cell therapy or gene therapy to make them even more effective. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a whole new era in regenerative medicine, and SoftWave is leading the way.
I think so too. We're definitely seeing a big change in how we approach healing and pain management.
So for anyone out there who might be listening and they're dealing with pain that just won't go away or an injury that won't heal, what would you say to them?
I would say this: don't give up. There are always new options being developed. Talk to your doctor, do some research, and ask about new treatments like SoftWave therapy.
That's great advice. It's so important to advocate for your own health and to be aware of all the possibilities.
Absolutely. And remember, you deserve to live a life without pain.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of SoftWave therapy. It's been such a fascinating and informative conversation.
The pleasure was all mine. I have a feeling we're going to continue to see some incredible things with this technology in the years to come.
I can't wait. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We'll be back next week with another exciting topic. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, keep exploring.